Assalamu alaikum students. Today we are solving chemistry 5070 paper 1 May June 2024 MCQs step by step. These questions are very important for you if you want to improve your exam technique. Don't just guess the answer. Pause the video and try solving yourself each MCQ before I explain it. So let's begin. Question number 1 is that which physical changes are both exothermic? Condensation and evaporation, evaporation and melting, freezing and condensation, melting and freezing. So they are talking about exothermic changes. In exothermic changes, heat is given out. In freezing and condensation, particles lose their energy to the surrounding. This energy is released as heat and the particles move closer together. In freezing and condensation, whenever the particles come close together, the process is usually exothermic. So that means our correct option is option C. What is tap water? A compound, a mixture of compounds and elements, a mixture of elements or an element. Tap water, as you know, it's not a pure water, it's a mixture of compounds and elements. Which compounds? The compounds like dissolved salts like sodium, chloride, calcium carbonate or magnesium salts are present dissolved in water, and elements, the dissolved elements such as dissolved oxygen and nitrogen. Question number 3. In which pair of particles is the sum of their charges equal to 0? The sum of their masses almost the same as 1 by 12 of the mass of an atom of carbon 12. 1 electron and 1 neutron, 1 electron and 1 proton, 1 neutron and 1 proton, and or 2 neutrons. So if you take 1 electron and 1 proton, electron has a charge of -1 and proton has a charge of +1. So what is the sum? The sum of these charges is equal to 0. Alright. So next is that there is only one proton. Okay, in this atom there is only one proton. So one proton means that the atomic mass will be equal to 1, and 1 by 12 of carbon 12, that is also equal to 1. So that means that our option 1 electron and 1 proton is correct, because the sum of their charges is equal to 0 and the sum of their masses, the atomic mass is 1 because it contains only one proton, and it is the sum of their masses is almost the same as 1/12 of the mass of an atom of carbon 12. So atomic mass is 1 as well as 1/12 of carbon 12 is also equal to 1. So that means option B is the correct one. An element has two isotopes of relative relative isotopic masses X and X plus 2. The diagram shows the composition of atoms in a sample of the element. Now you can see from the diagram that the isotope with a mass of X plus 2, it is less abundant, whereas the other isotope with a mass of X is more abundant. So you know that this relative, you have to find out what is the relative atomic mass of the sample of the element. So relative atomic mass would be closer to the isotope which has more abundance. Alright, like for example, if you say that if X is equal to 1, so that means that the isotope number 1 has an atomic mass of, its atomic mass should be equal to 1, and the next isotope number 2, for that the atomic mass should be, it would be how much? It would be x plus 2, it means it's 1 plus 2, it makes 3. All right. So as we just said that the relative atomic mass would be closer to the isotope which has more abundance. So which one has more abundance? The isotope with atomic mass of 1. So it means our option A would be correct, because the AR would be, it can be 1.5, closer to the atomic mass of isotope 1, because it is present in abundance. Okay. Now which molecule has 4 electrons involved in covalent bonding? For this we can draw their structures to see the covalent bonding in them. The first molecule is a molecule of chlorine, and in chlorine molecule there is a single covalent bond. And do you remember that in a single covalent bond is formed by the sharing of 2 electrons. So there are 2 electrons which are present in a single covalent bond. When you draw the structure of carbon dioxide, now carbon dioxide has 2 double covalent bonds. Now a double covalent bonds means how many electrons are there? There are how many electrons are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 and 8 electrons are there. Alright. And when you draw the structure of H2S, S sulfur forms 2 single covalent bonds. And let's see how many electrons are involved now. 1, 2, 3 and 4. So in the question they have asked which molecule has only 4 electrons involved in a covalent bond. The correct option is C. But let's also draw the structure of nitrogen molecule, which has a triple covalent bond in it. And in a triple covalent bond, how many electrons are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, means 6 electrons or 3 pairs of electrons are involved. The correct option is option C. Now next one is question number 6. Question number 6 is that the melting points and boiling points of 4 compounds W, X, Y and Z are given in the table. The melting points are given, the boiling points are also given. The 4 compounds are silicon, 4 oxide, ethane, bromine and carboxylic acid of formula C16H32, which identifies X, Y, W, X, Y and Z. Alright, so over here we can say that the silicon SiO2, this is present in solid form, in solid state. This is present in solid state and it has very high melting point and boiling point, since it is present in solid state, and also due to its giant covalent structure. Alright, it has high melting and boiling point. Next one is ethane. Ethane is a gas, and since it is a gas and it has a small covalent structure, so it will have less melting point, or it will have a lower melting point. Okay, next comes bromine. So now bromine is present in liquid state, and it has a simpler molecular structure having weak intermolecular forces. On the other hand, we have carboxylic acid, which is also present in liquid form, and it has a large molecule having strong intermolecular forces. So if you compare bromine and carboxylic acid will have higher melting point, boiling point as compared to bromine. So according to this, if we see silicon the one which has the highest melting point and boiling point should be silicon dioxide. Okay, so this one, why? This should be SiO2 because it has highest melting and boiling points. And ethene is a gas and it should have the lowest melting and boiling point, so that makes this Z to be ethene. And then comes these two, W and X. Over here, W is, X can be bromine because it has lower melting point and higher boiling point, so this can be bromine. And this one will be the first one having higher melting point and boiling point as compared to bromine. It can be carboxylic acid. Okay, so W is carboxylic acid, X is bromine, Y is SiO2, Z is ethene. So this option D is the correct one. Okay, what is the formula of zinc oxide? Zinc has an oxidation number of +2, oxygen has an oxidation state of -1. Now both will balance each other, so that makes the formula to be ZnO. This is the correct option. Which statement is correct? The relative formula mass of hydrated sodium carbonate is this, for in is 286, then X is 10. Now let's see this one, we can solve it over here. Na2 sodium carbonate is Na2CO3 and we have to calculate its MR, its relative formula mass. MR would be 23 is the atomic mass of sodium, multiplied by 2 plus 12 plus 16 multiplied by 3. Okay, so it's if you calculate it, the answer would be 106. Okay, and what is the MR of water? Its molecular mass is 1 multiplied by 2 plus 16, so that makes 18. All right, now 106, which is the MR molecular mass of sodium carbonate, plus X molecules of water, the total mass should be as given in the question. It should be equal to 286. Now it's, if you solve it, it will be 106 plus 18x, this is equal to 286. Now if you calculate it, the value of X would be 286 minus 106, so answer would be 180 divided by 18, and the value of X would be equal to 10. So that makes this the correct one. But if you see the rest of the options as well, phosphoric acid H3PO4 has a relative molecular mass of 50. If you calculate it quickly, hydrogens means 3 multiplied by 1 plus phosphorus is 31, and O4 means 16 multiplied by 4, so that makes to be answer would be 98. So that means this is the incorrect one. The relative atomic mass of a sample of an element with atomic masses 20 and 22 can be 21. They have not given us any abundances, so we cannot predict its relative atomic mass. Relative atomic masses of elements is the average of the atomic mass the average mass of the atoms of the isotopes of elements compared with the mass of hydrogen atom. We do not compare it with hydrogen atom, instead we compare it with carbon atom. Okay, so option A is the correct one. Question number 9 is that in volumetric experiment 25 cubic centimeter of this much concentration. So what is this given? This is the volume, this is the concentration of sodium hydroxide reacts exactly with this much volume of sulfuric acid. The equation is given and we have to find out the answer by doing the calculations. Alright, so we will just write the equation, or we can write the equation later. But first write the data which is given. Sodium hydroxide, the volume of sodium hydroxide given is 25 cubic centimeter, and its concentration which is given in the question is 0.100 moles per decimeter cube. Now since the volume is given in decimeters, we will convert it 25 centimeter cube into decimeters, cubic decimeters. It will be 0.025 decimeter cube. Alright, and then for this sulfuric acid H2SO4, volume is given to be, it is 20 centimeter cube. Converted into decimeter, it will be 0.02 decimeter cube, and we don't know its concentration. We have to calculate its concentration, but before calculating its concentration we have to find out the number of moles of sodium hydroxide. The formula for finding the moles is that moles is equal to concentration multiplied by volume. So the concentration that is given over there is 0.1 multiplied by volume, which is 0.025, and your answer would be 0.0025 moles. Okay, now we know that from the equation sodium hydroxide reacts with sulfuric acid in a ratio of 2 moles, means 2 moles, 2:1. 2 moles of sodium hydroxide react with 1 mole of sulfuric acid. We have got it from the equation that is given in the paper. Now if 2 moles react with 1 mole, how many moles of sulfuric acid will react with 0.0025 moles of sodium hydroxide? So we'll take it as x. Now cross multiply and we will calculate the value of x. It would be 0.0025 divided by 2. So it will be answer will be 0.00125 moles. Alright, now we can calculate the concentration of sulfuric acid from the formula that moles is equal to concentration multiplied by volume. And now we have to calculate the concentration, because we have already calculated the moles of sulfuric acid. Concentration will be equal to moles multiplied by volume. Okay, so the moles are how much? 0.00125 divided by volume is 0.02. Your answer would be 0.0625 moles per decimeter cube is the unit for finding the concentration. Okay, now let's see which option is given over here. Option A. In question number 10, the equation for the reaction between ammonium chloride and calcium hydroxide is shown below. 10.7 gram of ammonium chloride and 14.8 gram of calcium hydroxide are mixed and warmed. Then 10.0 gram of calcium chloride is obtained from the reaction. What is the percentage yield of calcium chloride? So calcium chloride is the product, and here they have given its actual yield. This is the actual yield of calcium chloride. Now over there in the equation we have two reactants, ammonium chloride and calcium hydroxide. Out of these two, their masses are also given. Now out of these two we have to find out which one is the limiting reactant, because limiting reactant is the one that controls the amount of the product which is formed. Alright, so first of all we have to find out of these two reactants which one is the limiting reactant that controls the production of calcium hydroxide. Now let's see what is the mass of ammonium chloride given. It is 10.7 gram, and this is the mass of calcium hydroxide. Their MRs are also given over here, and we have to find out the limiting reactant. For that we are going to use a very simple way of finding the limiting reactant. First of all we need to write the equation, which is NH4Cl ammonium chloride plus calcium hydroxide, and the products are 2NH3CaCl2 plus 2H2O. That is the equation given in the question, the balanced equation. And now for finding the limiting reactant, we have to follow these simple steps, and very easily we will find out the limiting reactant. The first reactant is ammonium chloride. The second reactant is calcium hydroxide. First of all, in the first step we will find the number of moles, and for finding the number of moles the formula is the given mass in gram divided by their MR. The values are also given in the question. So we will calculate the number of moles in the first step. The number of moles for NH4Cl would be, its mass given in the question is 10.7 divided by its MR, which is 53.5. It will be 0.20 moles. For calcium hydroxide it is 14.8 divided by its MR is 74. The answer would be again 0.20 moles. In the next step we have to find out what is the coefficient. The coefficient for ammonium chloride is 2, and for calcium hydroxide the coefficient is 1. Now what we do in the third step, that was the second, and in the third step what we do is that we divide moles by the coefficient. So how many moles of ammonium chloride? It is 0.20 moles divided by the coefficient is 2. Your answer would be 0.1. And for this calcium hydroxide it would be 0.20 divided by 1, so it would be 0.2. So which out of these two, which one is the limiting reactant? The limiting reactant should be the one, it is the one which is present in lesser amount, because it is as it is present in lesser quantity, so it controls the amount of the product that is formed. So out of these two, this is a smaller value, so that makes ammonium chloride our limiting reactant. The limiting reactant is ammonium chloride. Alright, then next we have to find out how much ammonium chloride will give us calcium hydroxide. So the ratio of ammonium chloride to calcium chloride is, from the equation, again we have 2 moles of ammonium chloride giving us 1 mole of calcium chloride. So that means 2 moles of this will give us 1 mole of the product calcium chloride. Then if we have over here, how many moles do we have? 0.2. And if we have 0.2 moles of ammonium chloride, how much calcium chloride will be formed? So let's find the number of moles of calcium chloride from this equation. It would be 0.2 divided by 2. So your answer would be 0.1 moles. Now we have got the answer of the number of moles of calcium chloride. Now we can convert it into gram. How can we convert it into gram? We can use the formula that mass is equal to moles multiplied by mR. So how much moles are there? It is 0.1 multiplied by mR. The mR is given in the question. It is 111. When you multiply it, your answer would be 11.1 gram. Okay. Now what is this amount? This is the theoretical yield. This one is the theoretical yield. And what was the actual yield given in the question? The actual yield was, the actual yield given in the question was 10 gram. See over there, this is the actual yield of calcium chloride. Okay, so just put the values in the formula for finding out the percentage yield. It is actual yield divided by the theoretical yield multiplied by 100. So it is, so it is 10 divided by 11.1 multiplied by 100. So answer is 90.09, or you can say it 90.1%. So let's see the correct option. It is option D. Alright, now question number 11. Question number 11 is that the diagram shows a simple electrolytic cell, and you have to show that which arrows show the movement of electrons. So the electrons travel through the wire and ions always move inside the electrolyte. Okay, so that means these are the electrons traveling through the wires, and inside it is inside the electrolyte, it's the ions that move. So which option is the correct one? It is option 3. Alright, because they have asked that which arrows show the movement of electrons. So 1 and 3. 1, this is 1 and 3. These are showing the movement of electrons through the wire. Question number 12. Which changes are observed during the electrolysis of aqueous copper to sulfate using copper electrodes? A pink solid is deposited on the negative electrode. Bubbles form on the positive electrode. The color of the solution does not change. All right, so if you draw the electrolytic cell, in the electrolytic cell, the our electrolyte is aqueous copper sulfate, and then there are 2 copper electrodes. This is, for example, this is the copper anode. If it is connected with the positive terminal, and the other one would be the cathode. This is copper cathode. Okay, so what will happen? This is the positive electrode, this one is the negative cathode. What will happen? That the copper ions will move from the anode into the solution, and from the solution or from the electrolytes, these copper ions would get deposited on the copper cathode as pink solid. Okay, so the copper ions will get deposited on the cathode, and the blue color of this electrolyte, the color of the color is blue. Okay, the blue color of the solution will not change, or it will not fade away, because the concentration of copper ions stay the same in the electrolyte. The copper ions deposited at the cathode are replaced by the copper ions formed at the anode. So which option is the correct one? It is option C. Okay, that 1 and 3, that a pink solid is deposited at the negative electrode, and D, that the color of the solution does not change. The color of the solution does not change because the concentration of copper ions remains constant. That does not change. That's why the color of the solution does not fade away. Okay, next one is question number 13. Which row describes a hydrogen oxygen fuel cell? All right, so in a hydrogen oxygen fuel cell, our the product is only water. So that means out of C and D we have to decide the correct option, that which one is the correct one. All right, because the product of hydrogen oxygen fuel cell is only water. Water is always produced, and fuel cell, in the fuel cell, the fuel which is used in the fuel cell is hydrogen. So in a fuel cell, hydrogen is the fuel and oxygen from the air is the oxidizing agent. So which option is the correct one? Option D, because a renewable fuel may be used in a fuel cell, and petrol engine uses a non-renewable fuel. Okay, because in this fuel cell, our fuel is what? Hydrogen is the fuel. Okay, whereas in petrol engines the fuel is non-renewable fuel. And always remember that oxygen is the oxidizing agent in a fuel cell. Okay, question number 14. Which statements about endothermic reactions are correct? So endothermic reaction is the one in which heat energy is absorbed and the temperature of the reaction mixture and the surroundings decrease. Alright, so that makes option A the correct one, because in it, one is that energy is absorbed from the surroundings. If it is endothermic reaction, energy is always absorbed, it is not released. And the third one is that the temperature of the reaction mixture falls. In the endothermic reactions, the temperature of the reaction mixture and the surroundings decrease, it does not rise. So that makes 1 and 3 the correct options, correct answer. So option A is the correct one. All right, next question number 15 is that hydrogen and chlorine react to form hydrogen chloride. The bond energy data is given below. What is the enthalpy change delta H for the reaction? So again, we can write this reaction over here. We can write it. It's a reaction between hydrogen and chlorine forming two HCl molecules. Okay, so this bond between hydrogens and this bond between chlorine, this bond is going to break. Okay, so what is the bond energy of H bond, hydrogen bond? It is 436, and for chlorine it is 242. Just add them. Your answer will be 678. And over here for the HCl it is 431 plus 431, because two new bonds are formed. Their sum would be equal to 862. Alright, so what is the formula to calculate delta H for this reaction? Delta H, the enthalpy change, this is equal to the sum of the bond energies of the reactants minus the sum of the bond energies of the products. It means that it is 678 minus 862. So your answer would be minus 184 kilojoules per mole. Okay, so the correct answer will be option B. Question number 16. Which statement is correct? Both physical changes and chemical changes produce new substances. Chemical changes are irreversible. During a chemical change, atoms rearrange themselves to form a new chemical bond. The only way to reverse a physical change is with a chemical reaction. Okay. Both physical and chemical changes produce a new substance. No, physical changes do not produce a new product. It's always chemical change that produces a new product. Chemical changes are irreversible. Mostly the chemical changes are considered to be irreversible, but some chemical changes can be reversed by some chemical processes like electrolysis. Okay, so some of the chemical changes can be reversed not by physical methods, by chemical methods like electrolysis. For example, when hydrogen reacts with oxygen to form water, it's a chemical change, but this change can be reversed. Water can be hydrolyzed, water molecule can be broken down, or it can be decomposed back into hydrogen and oxygen by electrolysis. Okay, so we will not take this one as well. So, during a chemical change, atoms rearrange themselves to form a new chemical bond. Yes, that's the correct option, because in the above reaction you can also see over here the bonds are breaking down and then they are rearranging themselves and they are forming the product in which new bonds are formed. Okay, so this one is the correct option. The only way to reverse a physical change is with physical changes can easily be reversed. They do not need a chemical reaction. Only a chemical change some of the chemical changes can be reversed by chemical reactions or chemical methods. Number 17. Question number 17 is that two reactions each produce gaseous product. The reactions are performed separately using the same conditions of temperature and pressure. The volume of the gas formed in each experiment is measured over time and the results are plotted in the graph. At which point is the rate of production of gas at the greatest? Alright, so when the reaction takes place, the point where the graph is the steepest or has the maximum slope or gradient, that shows the highest speed or the highest rate of reaction. So it's point A. Over here the graph is the steepest. Here the rate of reaction is maximum. Question number 18. The reaction between calcium oxide and carbon dioxide is reversible and the forward reaction is exothermic. Alright, the forward reaction is exothermic. Then a mixture of calcium oxide and carbon dioxide is placed in a heated flask and the reaction reaches equilibrium. Which statement about the reaction is correct? Alright, so first reaction is forward reaction is exo and then the reverse would be endothermic. Now we have to see the options. Less calcium carbonate is produced if the pressure in the flask increases. So over here less calcium carbonate is produced if the pressure in the flask increases. Over here if you see calcium oxide is a solid, carbon dioxide is a gas. So we have 1 mole on the reactant side and in the product side there is no gas form, or you can say there is less volume of the gas. So if you increase the pressure, if the pressure in the flask is increased, the reaction moves in the direction where the volume decreases. By increasing pressure the volume decreases. So that means that the reaction must move in the forward direction where the volume is decreasing. So the reaction should move in the forward direction. So less calcium carbonate is produced if the pressure in the flask increases. If the pressure increases, the reaction will move in the forward direction, and as a result of that more calcium carbonate would be produced. So option A is incorrect. More calcium carbonate is produced when the temperature is increased. When the temperature is increased, increase in temperature, whenever there is increase in temperature, which reaction increases? The endothermic reaction. And endothermic reaction is again is in the reverse direction, so that will not increase the amount of calcium carbonate. The flask must be sealed if the equilibrium is to be reached. Yes, the flask must be sealed if if equilibrium has to be reached. So the flask must be sealed or a closed system. It should be a closed system so that the reactants or the products cannot escape. Otherwise equilibrium cannot be established because the amounts of the substances will keep on changing. Alright, and when equilibrium is reached, the reaction stops. This is also incorrect because the reaction does not stop. Instead for the forward, and instead what happens that the forward reaction and the backward reaction continue and they both occur at the same rate. So the amount of reactants and products remain the same. This is called dynamic equilibrium. So that makes option C the correct option. Next is question number 19. In the Haber process, hydrogen and nitrogen react to form ammonia in the presence of a catalyst. Which reactant is obtained from fractional distillation, and what is the catalyst used in Haber process? So nitrogen is obtained by the fractional distillation of air, and iron is used as a catalyst. So which is the correct option? D. Question number 20. Chlorine reacts with aqueous sodium bromide to form aqueous sodium chloride and bromine. Which statement about the reaction is correct? Alright, so if you write the reaction over here, it's chlorine plus sodium bromide and this chlorine removes displaces bromine and it forms sodium chloride, and bromine moves out. So that is the reaction that takes place. Okay, now the first option is that bromine ions are oxidized because they lose electrons, and chlorine atoms are oxidized because they gain electrons. Sodium ions are oxidized because they lose electrons. The reaction does not involve oxidation or reduction. Okay, so let's see what are the oxidation states. Chlorine in gaseous form, what would be the oxidation number of chlorine? It would be 0. In sodium bromide, the oxidation of sodium is positive. For bromide, it is negative. Sodium is positive, chloride is negative, and again bromine in diatomic molecular form, it is 0. So if you see the increase or decrease in the oxidation number, this is the number line. Here you have positive numbers and there you have negative numbers. When anything moves from, if the oxidation number moves, like there is an increase in the oxidation number, so this process is called oxidation. Alright, and if there is a decrease in the oxidation number, then that process is called reduction. Alright, so over here you can see that for bromine, the bromide ion, it is moving from -1 to 0. Alright, from -1 to 0. So that means what is happening? It is getting oxidized. The bromide ion is getting oxidized. Alright, and what is happening over there with chlorine? So for sodium nothing is happening. Alright, chlorine is moving from 0 to -1. From 0 to -1, that means chlorine is getting reduced. So chlorine is getting reduced, and reduction means gain of electrons. And over here bromide ion, this is getting oxidized by loss of electrons. So now let's see which is the correct option. The correct option would be that bromide ions are oxidized because they lose electrons. Yes, bromide ions are oxidized and they have lost electrons. So option A is the correct one. Chlorine atoms are oxidized. No, their chlorine is not oxidized. Sodium ions, there is no change in sodium ions. It's positive and it stays positive. There is no change. And the reaction does not involve oxidation and reduction. So oxidation and reduction is happening over there in the reaction. Okay, question number 21. Question number 21 is that 1 mole of a compound X gives 2 moles of ions in aqueous solution. X reacts with ammonium carbonate to give an acidic gas. What is compound X? Is it calcium hydroxide, ethanoic acid, nitric acid, or sodium hydroxide? Okay, so our reactant is ammonium carbonate. So when ammonium carbonate reacts with an acid, okay, when ammonium carbonate reacts with an acid, always carbon dioxide gas is given out. Now this carbon dioxide gas is acidic in nature, okay, and when ammonium carbonate or any other ammonium salt like ammonium phosphate or ammonium chloride, anything, when it reacts with a base or an alkali, the product is always ammonia gas. Ammonia gas is given out, and ammonia gas is alkaline, or you can say it is basic in nature. Alright, this is ammonia gas is alkaline. So in this question they are asking that 1 mole of the compound X gives 2 moles of ions in aqueous solution. That means it gets ionized in aqueous solution, and 1 mole of the compound completely ionizes into 2 moles of ions. It means one would be positive ion, other would be negative ion. 1 mole completely ionizes or dissociates into positive and negative ion, and X reacts with ammonium carbonate to give an acidic gas. So for acidic gas we need an acid. Ammonium carbonate must react with an acid. Calcium hydroxide and sodium hydroxide, these are alkaline in nature, so we will just select from ethanoic acid and nitric acid. Now since it's written that it ionizes completely into positive ions and negative ions, so any acid that ionizes completely, it should be a strong acid. Alright, and over here out of ethanoic acid and nitric acid is a strong acid. Alright, the correct option is nitric acid, because nitric acid in water ionizes completely into hydrogen ions and nitrate ions. Alright, that means if you have 1 mole of nitric acid, so it will give you 2 moles of ions, 1 mole of hydrogen ion and 1 mole of nitrate ion. So total of 2 moles of the product will be formed. Okay, on the other hand, ethanoic acid is a weaker acid. It's a weak acid, and weak acids they do not ionize completely. It's only their partial ionization takes place. Question number 22. Which statement about weak acids is correct? So we just discussed the weak acids right now, that they do not ionize or dissociate completely. So option A is the correct one. That over here it's written that some molecules are not dissociated, means some of them get dissociated and some of them remain as it is, they are not dissociated. So option A is the correct one. Next is question number 23. Which compound is the least soluble in water? Calcium chloride, lead nitrate, calcium carbonate, potassium sulfate. Alright, calcium chloride and is soluble in water. Lead nitrate, all the nitrates are soluble in water. Potassium sulfate, again this is a compound of group 1. Potassium belongs to group 1. In group 1 all the compounds are soluble, but the carbonates of group 2, magnesium belongs to group 2. Carbonates of group 2 are less soluble. in water. Okay, you can say insoluble or least soluble in water. Question number 24. Which statement about water of crystallization is correct? The first one is that the ratio of COCl, cobalt chloride, and water in hydrated cobalt chloride is 6:1. If you remember, the formula is COCl2 with 6 molecules of water. So the ratio should be 1:6, not 6:1. So that means this is the incorrect one. The ratio of copper sulfate to water is 1:5. Copper sulfate has 5 water molecules with it, so the ratio is 1:5. So that means this is the correct one. When a saturated solution is heated, the water that evaporates is called water of crystallization. No, this is water of crystallization. Okay, the next one is that question number 25. The diagram shows a section of periodic table. Which element is a metal that has exactly 3 outer shell electrons or 3 valence electrons? Now the group number represents the number of valence or outer valence electrons. Okay, so over here it's group number 1, so they will all have 1 electron in their outermost shell. Group 2 will have 2 electrons in their outermost shell. Group 3 will have 3 electrons in their outermost shell. So which is the correct option? It's option B, because they will have 3 outer shell electrons. Question number 26. The table compares 2 properties of lithium and potassium. Which row is correct? Alright, we have in group 1 we have lithium, sodium and potassium, and we know that down the group, as the atomic size increases, what happens? That the density also increases. As the atomic size increases, density increases, as well as the reactivity also increases. Okay, so which option would be the correct one? Option D, that potassium will have greater density and as well as greater tendency to form positive ions. So if there is a greater tendency to form positive ions, the reactivity would be more. Which properties are correct for the element copper? Now copper is a metal, it has metallic bonds, so since it's a metal, it would have higher melting point. These melting points are quite low, so it can't be copper. We have to select from option C and D. And we also know that since copper is a metal and it's malleable and ductile, so that means that option D is the correct one. Its melting point is high and it has high malleability. Okay, now question number 28. That which statement is correct? Copper is unreactive because of an oxide layer. Okay. Next is that silver and gold are used to make jewelry because they corrode very slowly. Next is that magnesium can be displaced from aqueous solution of its ions by adding aluminium. Zinc gains electrons more readily than magnesium gains electrons. Alright, so copper is unreactive because it forms an oxide layer. No. Gold and silver are used to make jewelry because they corrode very slowly. They are not reactive. That's why they corrode slowly. It's a correct one. Magnesium can be displaced from aqueous solution of its ions by adding aluminum. If you compare from the reactivity series of metals, magnesium is more reactive than aluminum. So this one, that makes this one incorrect. Zinc gains electrons more readily than magnesium gains electrons. Again, if you compare magnesium and zinc, so magnesium is more reactive than zinc from the reactivity series, according to that. Okay, next is that which reaction takes place in the blast furnace? First, second, third one, SiO2, silicon 4 oxide plus calcium oxide, they form calcium silicate. Okay, so this is the correct one. Next we move to question number 30. Question number 30 is that the presence of water can be confirmed by the use of either anhydrous cobalt 2 chloride or anhydrous copper 2 sulfate. Now if you write the reactions for them, CuSO4, if you, this is white, and when you add water to it, it becomes hydrated copper sulfate, and its color is blue. So that gives a positive test for water when the color changes from white to blue. Okay, and for cobalt chloride, COCl2, when you add water to it, what is the color? It is blue, and it changes to pink. COCl2 with 6 molecules of water, its color is pink. So change from blue to pink is the positive test for water. Now let's see what is the correct option. Anhydrous cobalt 2 chloride turns from blue to white. Then the next one is, this one is incorrect because cobalt chloride turns from blue to white, that's wrong. Anhydrous cobalt chloride turns from pink to blue. No, it turns from blue to pink, so that means this one is also incorrect. Anhydrous copper 2 sulfate turns from blue to pink, that one is also incorrect. Anhydrous 2 copper sulfate turns from white to blue. So yes, it changes from white to blue, so this one, option D, is the correct one. All right, then next we have ammonium phosphate may be used as fertilizer. Which is the percentage by mass of elements that improve plant growth in ammonium phosphate? So in ammonium phosphate, what are the elements that improve the plant growth? It is nitrogen. Nitrogen is important for leaf growth. And what is the other element? That is phosphorus. Phosphorus is important for root and flower growth. And in NPK fertilizers we have nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium is good for the strength and resistance of the plant. So that means we have to find out the percentage of nitrogen and phosphorus. So we have this ammonium phosphate, NH4 whole 3 PO4. And when first of all we have to calculate its MR, it would be 3 inside the bracket, it would be 14 plus 4 plus phosphorus is 31 plus 16 multiplied by 4, so it would be 149. The percentage of nitrogen in it is 14 multiplied by 3, that makes 42, divided by 149 multiplied by 100, answer would be 28.2%. And what is the percentage of phosphorus in it? It is 31 over 149 multiplied by 100, so it is 20.8%, and the total would be 28.2 plus 20.8, that will be 49.0% of both. So the correct option is option D, 49%. Okay, so question number 32, which statement is correct? An unsaturated hydrocarbon is the one in which more solute can dissolve. It is not like that. Then the next one is the members of homologous series each differ from the next by CH2 unit. Yes, this is the correct statement. Structural isomers have same displayed formula but different structural formula. No. Structural isomers have they have same molecular formula but different structural formulas. By structural formula we mean the arrangement of atoms, alright? So they do not have the same displayed or the structural formula. They have same molecular formula. Okay. And if the displayed, or you can say the structural formula is the same, then they are not isomers. For example, butane has two structural isomers. One is a straight chain, N-butane. The other one is branch chain, that is 2-methylpropane. So the structural isomers have same molecular formula but different structural formulas. Okay. The general formula of carboxylic acid and homologous series is CnH2nCOOH. No, it should be CnH2n plus 1 COOH. That should be the correct one. Okay. All right. So the correct option is B in this case. Question number 33. What is the name of ester C3H7COOC2H5? Alright, now if I draw it, these are the 3 carbons with 7 hydrogens. And then we have COO, that means this is first CO, C double bond O, the carboxyl carbon, COO, and then C2H5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now you have to name it. So you know that this part C3H7COOH, that is the acidic part. You name it as alkanoate. And this is the alkyl part. What is the alkyl group? Having 2 carbons. This is ethyl. This is the ethyl group, and over here this one is having 1 2 3 4 carbons. All right, so 4 carbon makes it butanoate. So the name of this ester is ethyl butanoate. Which option? Option B. Okay, option B is the correct one. Its name is ethyl butanoate. Question number 34. Petroleum is separated into useful products by fractional distillation. Which of these fractions has the lowest boiling point? Okay, so if you remember what is the order, first of all we starting from low temperature. If you move from low temperature to high temperature, so we have, first of all, we have all the refinery gases. The refinery gases, and then comes the gasoline, which is also called petrol, then naphtha. The next fraction is kerosene, then the next fraction is diesel oil, then the next fraction is fuel oil, then lubricating oil, and then the bitumen. Okay, so what is the correct option? Which out of these fractions, which one would have the we are given these 4 options, which one will have the lower boiling point? Just see which one would have the lower boiling point. So it would be option C, because rest of the fractions, they are present below petrol and they have higher boiling points. Question number 35. Which equation represents a substitution reaction? Substitution reaction takes place in alkanes or alkenes? Yes, it takes place in alkanes. Alright, so which one is the alkane? C3H8. This one is alkane. Let's write its reaction. 1 2 3. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 and 8. So this is what? This is propane plus Cl2. The bond breaks. This bond breaks, and one of the chlorine, it replaces or it substitutes the bromine. Alright, so your product is C, 3 carbons, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 hydrogens, and the 8th hydrogen gets replaced by chlorine plus HCl, and this reaction takes place in the presence of ultraviolet light. And what is the product? If you write the formulas, it is C3H8 plus Cl2, and it forms C3H7Cl plus HCl, and the reaction takes place in the presence of ultraviolet light. So it means that our option A is the correct one. Okay, next one is, which row shows the minimum number of moles of oxygen needed for complete combustion of 1 mole of the named alcohol? Okay, so the alcohols are butane 1-ol, butane 2-ol, propane 1-ol, propane 2-ol, and the moles of oxygen are given. So that means you have to write equation for each of these alcohols, and you have to find out from the equation the number of moles. But there is an easier way by which you can calculate how many oxygen, how much oxygen would be needed by each alcohol. I'm just telling you a shortcut, that how much oxygen is required by the alcohol. So the oxygen, the amount of oxygen that is required, just remember this formula, oxygen required by the alcohols, this is equal to the number of carbons, number of carbon atoms, multiplied by 3/2. Or you can also write it like number of, this is equal to number of carbon atoms multiplied by 1.5. Okay, so number of carbon atoms, for that we can use, to represent number of carbon atoms, we can represent it with N. So N represents number of carbon atoms. All right, now just we have to put in the formula. Instead of writing the equations, we can use this formula, simple. Butanol, 1-butanol, butane 1-ol or butane 2-ol, both of them will have how many carbons in them? They will have 4 carbons in them. So it would be, number of carbon atoms is 4 multiplied by 1.5. Okay, and for propanol, the number of N, the value of N is, this is for butane 1-ol or butane, since both of them have 4 carbons. And for propane, whether it is propane 1-ol or propane 2-ol, the number of carbons would be 3. So it would be 3 multiplied by 1.5, or propane 2-ol again. So when you multiply it, your answer would be, it will be 4.5, and over here the answer is 6. So let's see. So if carbon number is 4, okay, whether it's butane 1-ol or 2-ol, you need, how many oxygens are required? You need 6 moles. So that means that this option A is the correct one. 12 is the incorrect one. And for propanol, the correct option is, the correct number of moles of oxygen needed is 4.5. So 3 and 6, these are wrong. So that means our option A is the correct option. Question number 37. In question number 37, the diagram is shown. It shows the partial structure of a polymer. This is the polymer that is given, and you have to find out that which pair of reagents is used to form this polymer. So we have to find out the monomers in it. In this we can see the amide linkages. What is an amide linkage? It's a linkage between CO and N. This linkage is called an amide linkage. Okay, so this is one molecule. See, this is one first in amide linkage, this is another amide linkage, and this is another amide linkage. So that means this is one unit, this is one unit, and this is the other unit. Okay, so what would be the correct option? Option D. All right, this is one monomer, and this is the other monomer. All right, so they will condense together and they will form they will lose water molecule and they will form the above polymer. The bond will be formed between this nitrogen and the carbon, this CO, the carbon and carbon, because both of them, the bonds are breaking from both of them. Question number 38. A student measures the rate of a reaction at which a fixed mass of magnesium reacts with a fixed volume of dilute hydrochloric acid. Okay, so which additional pieces of apparatus are required for this experiment? Okay, so what is he doing? He is measuring the rate. For measuring the rate of a reaction, what do you need? You need a stopwatch to measure the rate, measure time, and then you have to find out the fixed mass of magnesium. For finding mass, what do we need? We need a balance to measure the mass, and to find out the fixed volume. For finding volume, we need apparatus like cylinder or any thing that with the help of which we can measure the volume. So which is the correct option? Option A, because we need a balance, measuring cylinder and a stopwatch. In the last three options, the thermometer is mentioned. We are not measuring any temperature over here, so that's why option A is the correct option. Question number 39. 2 titrations of dilute hydrochloric acid with aqueous sodium hydroxide are done using 2 different indicators. Number 1 is methyl orange, the other one is thymophthalene. Alright, so you must remember what are the colors of these indicators in acidic or in acids and alkalis. Thymophthalene gives which color in acids? It is colorless in acids, and in alkalis it gives blue color. And methyl orange is red in acids, and yellow, it gives yellow color in alkalis. Okay, so the reaction is also given using a volumetric pipette, 25.0 cubic centimeter dilute hydrochloric acid is added to a conical flask with a few drops of indicator. See, hydrochloric acid is taken in the conical flask. Aqueous sodium hydroxide is added. Sodium hydroxide is taken in the burette, from the burette to the dilute hydrochloric acid until the end point is reached. Okay. The end point of the titration with each indicator occurs when 23.6 centimeter cube of aqueous sodium hydroxide is added. Which statements about this experiment are correct? Number 1, methyl orange changes color from red to yellow. That means it has gone above the end point. More alkali has been added, or the alkali is more concentrated, due to which the color has become yellow. Orange color has changed, little bit faded to yellow. Thymophthalene changes color from blue to colorless. No, from blue to colorless, it's wrong. The dilute hydrochloric acid is less concentrated than aqueous sodium hydroxide. Yes. So our correct option is option C, because we can say that 1 and 3 are correct. Over here you can see that what is the volume of HCl. The volume of HCl that we have taken with the help of pipette is 25 cubic centimeter. The volume of NaOH that has been used to titrate this acid is 23.6 centimeter cube. Even though these volumes are similar, but sodium hydroxide neutralizes the acid completely with slightly less volume, meaning that sodium hydroxide contains more moles of OH hydroxide ions per cubic centimeter than as compared to HCl, which contains less hydrogen ions per centimeter cube. So what does it mean? It means that HCl is more dilute. Okay, that means more dilute means it is less concentrated. And NaOH, as we just said, that NaOH contains more moles of hydroxide ions per cubic centimeter. So it means that this is more concentrated. Okay, so is it clear now that smaller volume of NaOH is needed to neutralize 25 centimeter cube of HCl? So NaOH must have a higher concentration, so HCl is less concentrated. Okay, now we move on to the last one, that what is used to separate solid mixture of copper powder and sodium chloride to obtain pure solid samples of each compound. So you need it's a solid mix of copper powder and NaCl. So what do you need to separate them? You need a suitable solvent, distillation, crystallization, filtration. Okay, so yes, you need, because you have to separate both of them. First point is that you have to select a suitable solvent to make one of these two dissolve in the solvent, and then you have to crystallize them and filter out the dissolved component. Okay, so which one is the correct option? The correct option is C, because 1, 3 and 4 are correct. There is no need to do any distillation. All right, so we are done with it, and I hope that if you find this video helpful to understand the MCQs better, then like the video and subscribe for more chemistry past paper solutions, and also comment below how many answers did you get correct. So see you in the next video. Till then, Allah Hafiz.